Post-election uncertainty, record Russian losses, and talks of commercial flights during war. This is week 142 of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. I'm Anna Belokur, reporting to you from Kyiv, and I'll be taking you through the top stories of the week. This week saw the conclusion to the 2024 U.S. election, as the Republican Party officially secured the House of Representatives in a clean sweep. With a Republican-controlled Congress, President-elect Donald Trump will likely face little resistance in getting his top cabinet choices approved, choices that he's already begun announcing. Some of Trump's picks for his administration haven't been surprising, like his nominations of loyal Republican Congressmen Matt Gaetz and Marco Rubio for Attorney General and Secretary of State, respectively. Some decisions, however, were slightly more unexpected. Trump picked Fox News TV host Pete Hegseth as his Secretary of Defense, despite Hegseth's complete lack of government leadership experience. He also chose polarizing Democrat-turned-Republican Tulsi Gabbard to be head of national intelligence, a particularly controversial choice given the fact that Gabbard's talking points align so closely with the Kremlin's that she's been accused by some of being a Russian asset. Other notable picks by Trump include the selection of controversial figures Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to lead the Department of Government Efficiency, a new body that will aim to provide advice and guidance from outside the government, whatever that entails. Neither has experience in political leadership, and particularly in Musk's case, there are many legal and ethical questions about how a billionaire who owns one of the largest communication platforms in the world can serve as an advisor to the president. Trump's choices so far, whether they make it into office or not, indicate that Trump's foreign policy is going to be most hawkish against China, and likely not so much against Russia. Most of them echo the idea that the war ending sooner is more important than Ukrainian victory. We actually made an extended video about what Trump's picks mean for Ukraine, and we're going to link that in the description below. The first week post-election also saw renewed urgency in Europe and wider NATO countries to cement their strategies and present a united show of support for Ukraine in the face of potentially faltering U.S. aid. Leaders like French President Macron and UK Prime Minister Starmer met to discuss solidarity, and some, like former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, have suggested that Europe needs to think more proactively about putting troops on the ground in Ukraine in the future. Top EU diplomat Joseph Borrell visited Kyiv this week, and even spent a night in a bomb shelter in a sign of solidarity for Ukraine's ongoing struggle. One of the other big events of the week, we released the Kyiv episode of our travel show, in which my colleague Masha shows you around Ukraine's second largest city, which bears the brunt of some of Russia's most brutal attacks. Despite enduring severe damage and remaining under the constant horror of Russia's war, Kharkiv's spirit remains unbroken, with its community determined to keep the city alive through art, innovation, and unity. We'll have a link to that in the description below too. November 12th was the singular deadliest day for Russia since the start of the full-scale invasion, with 1,950 casualties recorded. This amounted to 250 more than the previous record, which was set just the day before. The third deadliest day occurred on May 13th of this year, with 1,740 losses. A UK defense official said that Russia averaged 1,500 men killed and injured every single day in October. The Kremlin seems relatively okay with this, though, as they continue to pour more and more troops into assaults that yield huge losses of life, but steady gains of Ukrainian territory. Putin even approved a change in legislation this week to reduce payments for wounded soldiers, introducing new criteria that bases compensation on the severity of the injury, although there are no set criteria for judging this. Aside from the grinding advance in Donetsk Oblast, there have been several Russian pushes along the front line and worries that more may soon follow. Ukrainian forces are repelling assaults in Zaporizhia and Kharkiv oblasts, with Russian forces reaching the outskirts of the strategically important Kupiansk. Ukraine warded off an attempt to enter Kupiansk on Wednesday, in which 4 waves of Russian troops assaulted the city with vehicles, according to Ukraine's general staff. As Ukraine tries to hold the line, a reported 50,000 Russian troops are being assembled in what many predict will be a decisive effort to push Ukraine out of Russia's Kursk Oblast before Donald Trump's inauguration in January. In entering any kind of peace negotiation, Ukraine's occupation of Russian territory would be a bargaining chip in Ukraine's favor, one that Russia won't risk. Ukraine's commander-in-chief, Oleksandr Syrsky, says that the attack is imminent, and there are concerns that if Russia pushes aggressively, they may not stop at Ukraine's northern border, entering Ukraine's Sumy Oblast, which, although a frequent target for Russian aerial attacks, is entirely under Ukrainian control at the moment. Officially speaking, no commercial airplanes have flown in or out of Ukraine since February 2022, when air travel was suspended due to security threats. Still, Marsh McClellan's senior partner Crispin Ellison, who has worked on strategic recovery with the Ukrainian government over the past year, said at the Kyiv International Economic Forum recently that Ukraine plans to open one of its airports, although they didn't specify which one, by the end of January 2025. Word is that the airport in question would either be Lviv, located in far western Ukraine near the Polish border, or Boryspil, the biggest airport outside of Kyiv in north-central Ukraine. Lviv seems like the most likely option. It's right by the EU border, and the area has historically seen far fewer attacks than most of the country, making insurance for airlines more feasible. Although President Zelensky has insisted that Boryspil must be reopened first, Ellison described the opening of Lviv airport as a precursor step to that being possible. It makes sense. Symbolism aside, airlines are far more likely to ensure brief flights just within Ukraine's border than the more lengthy, and thus more risky, path to the capital. Reopening Ukraine's airports during war is an odd thing to think about. On the one hand, the main way to get to Ukraine these days is by a very long train ride from Poland, which is exhausting and inefficient. I think nostalgically about the days when it was so easy to get to Kyiv from any European capital in just a couple hours, and how much I took for granted my last flight out of Boryspil in late 2021. At the same time, with near daily drone and missile attacks hitting Kyiv, it is genuinely impossible to imagine getting into an airplane anytime soon. That's all for this week. We'll be back next Sunday with more news from Ukraine. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to this channel. Your support is what allows us to bring independent, uncensored news about Russia's brutal invasion, which we are committed to doing no matter how much uncertainty the world faces. If you'd like to become a member of the Kyiv Independent community, please visit the link in the description below. I'll see you next week.